It's only day one of this Lil Durk trial, and they already sabotaging him, man. Down from the first words that was stated in court today by the judge to the jury selection and the instructions. Shout out to Trapler Rawls. He's been in court doing an excellent job reporting on this trial from day one. But the judge came to court today, and he said something that I have a really big problem with. But for some reason, is not being treated with the seriousness and severity it should be treated as. This is not okay. Now, this isn't even the most serious offense that I believe is sabotaging. This is just the beginning. Let's take a look.
All right, folks, so I'm here at the federal courthouse for day one officially of Lil Durk's murder for hire trial. And I'm not gonna lie, things got off to an absolutely insane start. It was actually a wild start. No disrespect to the judge, but the judge made just a little bit of an accident. Look, we're only human, but the judge accidentally said something that nearly completely ended the whole proceedings. Like, it was actually crazy. So the judge was kind of introducing everything, you know, reintroducing the charges. The prosecutors had their opportunity to like reintroduce to this potential jury what the charges are, what they're going to be facing, everything that's going on with that. And what was really crazy is that, you know, during the judge kind of explaining what was going on, he made just a slip of the tongue. It was completely accidental. You know, it wasn't like anything where I don't think it was intentional. I don't think it was gonna create any bias, but it was a pretty wild moment. And they basically sort of reread the charges, and then they said, oh, you know, all of the defendants, they've pled guilty to these charges. And then it was like straight gasps in the courtroom. People were like, what? There were people that were already in the courtroom. They were handing out like leaflets, like free Durk booklets and leaflets, postcards. I even got one right here. I got given like a free Durk postcard. So I guess I might be team free Lil Durk now. Shout out to the people that are in there, you know, doing their thing. But there was this absolutely wild moment where the judge said, yeah, they all pled guilty. And then it was like, gasp, it was like, what? And then he was like, not guilty, my bad. And he kept it moving. Now look, he was very professional. I don't think that is anything that you could say was going to taint the jury or going to cause any major problems. It was only human, it was a slip of the tongue. But it was like a raucous start, like the courtroom gasped. And then when he corrected it, it was like, there was sort of like chuckles. People couldn't really believe what was going on. And it was just like, it was.
I'm sorry, people. I'm sorry. But ain't ish funny when a nigga on trial for his life, man. Ain't ish funny, man. At all. Not a goddamn thing funny when a nigga on trial for his life, man. So all that chuckling, all that ha, oh, my apologies, sir. I didn't mean no. Man, cut it out, man. Hey, bruh, mistrial, start this over. I don't even want a possibility that somebody in this room could hear that. Now that person leaves this room already biased, thinking I'm guilty. Now they're related to somebody who maybe picked for this jury pool. Now that person is already, man, cut it out, man. Man, restart this trial, over with, man. What you talking about? Now, the probability that the public being swayed by this is slim. But when somebody's life is on the line, ain't no room for a mistake, ain't no room for mistakes, ain't no room at all for none of that, bruh. At all. So, nah, I don't think that was funny. Now, that's not the most egregious thing that took place in court today. That's just something that I personally felt like, hold on, bruh. Bruh, I don't believe in mistakes, bruh. Like, now, do I feel like that was meant to be malicious towards Lil Durk? I don't know. But do I think it was a complete accident? I don't think so. Maybe he was trying to be funny. All right? Maybe he was trying to break the ice in the courtroom, but that's a bad way to break the ice, man.
It was just a crazy start. And like I say, people are in there, they're fighting for Durk's innocence. Look, I'm not gonna lie, there were a few people in there. I didn't get any hate, fortunately, but there were people in there saying how much they hate DJ Academics, saying that he's spreading bad narratives, that, you know, they're fighting for justice for Durk. Durk's innocent. And respect to everybody that was there and is, you know, giving their opinion across for this. I even actually got an opportunity just now, I hope they don't mind me saying this, but to speak to Big Durk, Durk's father. You know, he said he appreciated some of the positive coverage that I've done. Obviously, I've done some positive, some negative. But, you know, as I said to him, I said, look, I really try and cover the positives. I'm not biased. I'm really not trying to be biased.
They worry about the wrong ish, man. Yo, Lil Durk, get your team, bro. They worry about the wrong stuff. You on trial right now for murder. You fighting for your life. You trying not to do life in prison, and your team is in court. Instead of being focused on the case, being focused on the trial, they worry about DJ Academics. They worry about media and blogs. Sir, he's on trial. You're in court, and like that's your focus? Now, here's the most concerning part about all of this is the jury selection. See, we all know what the game plan is, man. The game plan when it comes to one of us, we don't want one of them like in this jury. We don't want one of them in this jury because we understand what the repercussions is, man. If one of them is in this jury, they gonna have each other back. We don't want one of them. But they can't just come out and say, hey, no niggas. No, they can't say that because they understand the repercussions. Okay? Right? Yo, you come out and say, no niggas, hey man, even if you find him guilty, like mistrial, bruh. So they use coded language. And when I listen to the jury instructions or the questions for the jury selection, all I hear is coded language trying to violate Durk's right to a jury of his peers. This is coded language for no black folks. And the questions they're asking is very strategic because they about to target them.
Okay, so I'm here outside the federal courthouse for day one of the Lil Durk murder for hire trial. And what is really interesting is that jury selection has begun. So let me give you the update on exactly what's going on. We've just had jury selection. Basically, jury selection is now ongoing. It was a packed courtroom. They've got 80 potential jurors. It sounds like that's probably like, I don't know if I want to say it's unusual, but it sounded like it was kind of on the more heavy side. What's really, really interesting is that obviously they've got so many jurors, they've got so many options because there's really so much scope for this to go wrong with the jurors. I'm not going to lie. They said straight up to all of the jurors in the courtroom, look, this is about a murder case related to a very well-known rap superstar, like a star. He is a big name. You might have heard of him. All right. They said that they were going to give the jurors a massive questionnaire to try and find out a whole bunch of different things. Now, unfortunately, the media and the public, they're not going to be privy to what's on that questionnaire. So we don't know who's on the witness list. We don't know what was asked on the questionnaire. But what we do know is that it was very big. It was very comprehensive. And apparently what we did hear is that some of the stuff that they are going to be asked is if the jurors are into rap music, if they're into hip hop, what their relationship is with hip hop, what their kind of history is, kind of following this kind of case, this kind of coverage, if they've got any knowledge of the judge, of the lawyers, if there's any backstory that kind of, might make them biased, and they've been given that questionnaire. So I thought it was going to be a longer day today.
This jury pool is from Southern California, Los Angeles County, Southern California, right? And in the surrounding areas. If you are asking, hey, do you know anything about hip hop music? And that's gonna quote unquote disqualify you. Yeah, what's your relationship to hip hop music? Do you listen to hip hop music? And if that's a disqualifier, who's gonna get disqualified in Southern California that listens to hip hop? Blacks is out of here. Probably Mexicans, you out of here. Who's left? Indians, like some Asians, grandmamas probably, white folks, right? So we understand what this is. Yo, this is like coded language. Hey, bruh, no urban folks, sorry. Or like even things like, yo, where'd you grow up? The minute you say, hey, I grew up in South Central, out of here. So go out of here. Don't even bother filling out the rest of the questionnaire, man. You put South Central, out of here. Sorry. Now, they're gonna use these coded languages and they would never say, hey, it's because you're black. No, they would use any other disqualifier. Like, for example, in the Carmelo Anthony case, they brought on two teachers that fit the bill to a T. Who's more qualified to judge something that took place on school grounds than two former teachers or two teachers in general? They say that these two quote-unquote black women who were former teachers are disqualified because, we think that if they teachers, they'll be biased on something that took place on a school. I say, all right, bruh. So with this Durk case, asking things like, yo, where'd you grow up at? Yo, do anybody in your family listen to rap music? Do you have a cousin that likes rap music? There's coded language for no iggas, all right? None of us involved. Now, how does that play out for Lil Durk? This is supposed to be a jury of his peers. If Lil Durk don't got anybody from his background, anybody from his community, anybody who have experienced things that he have experienced, anybody from the communities he was raised in, then how can they fairly judge the actions of Lil Durk? How can they fairly distinguish between this is just rap lyrics, this is him actually like admitting within good faith to commit a murder? oh no, this is just how rappers talk or men from this community talk when they're angry, versus, oh no, he actually had plans on murdering these people. Is people from the community who have the same experience as Lil Durk, those would be the people more qualified to fully understand the nuance that comes with this case. But because these folks is using coded language to sabotage the jury selection, Lil Durk won't get a fair trial. He won't get a jury of his peers.
They ended up ending it after sort of half a day. They've given those instructions to the jury. They've given out those questionnaires, and those jurors are going to come back tomorrow. And then we're basically going to hear from the lawyers. We're going to determine basically whether or not, some of the jurors are going to be excluded. What was really interesting is they said that they're basically, by the end of tomorrow, they need to have turned 80 jurors into 16. Specifically, there's going to be like 12 jurors that are, the main jurors, and there's going to be 4 alternates. And what was really fascinating was that they kind of explained like some of the backstory as far as, what things they're allowed to find out, what they're not. They're not allowed to get their addresses, but they are allowed to find out, what area they stay in from Los Angeles, what their professions are, who they live with. They said, we need to find out if you guys live with a music executive, if you live with somebody in law enforcement, if you're kind of, just anything along the lines that might make you tainted in this context. And I do have a feeling that there is probably going to be a fight. There's a rumor going around that there were only a handful of black jurors in the jury pool. Now, look, I can't confirm or deny that. I didn't see any of the jurors. I know some people had kind of maybe thought that they'd seen jurors in the hallway. I don't think that can be fully confirmed, so I'm not going to jump the gun on that, and I don't have the information on that. But obviously you probably have seen that there are rumors going around about the races of the jurors. But at the end of the day, all right, the judge has been very fair. The judge is going to make it very clear what's allowed, what's not allowed. And really, I don't think race has been a really big part of this so far, and I doubt it's going to be going forward. But people are saying that there are some black jurors on the table, and we're going to find out how that develops by tomorrow.
I think it's crucial Lil Durk got black jurors on that jury box. But beyond black jurors, can we at least get people who come from a similar community that Lil Durk comes from? Now, again, this is Southern California. Lil Durk is from Chicago. But people who are from the urban environment, people who understand the nuances that has to exist in this case. You ask somebody from, I don't know, Beverly Hills their entire life to look at Lil Durk's actions and his text messages, right? And him having a crew of guys that he texts with in a group chat. Him talking about sticks, or him telling Quando Rondo, man, bro, take this piece from this switch. Languages like that, we could look at and we could say, okay, I mean, he's upset right here. This is just how people talk from where he's from. This is just ego. This does not equate to he actually had plans on murdering Lil Pop and Quando Rondo. But, bro, you show that to somebody from Beverly Hills, somebody from like Santa Clarita, right? Somebody from, I don't know, bruh, all right? Like up there, right? Like Chino Hills. They're not understanding the nuance, right? Lil Durk is a murderer to them. Now, here's the good news, though. Now, the judge have officially ruled that they can never, they can't describe this as a murder on behalf of the gang in trial. And the reason why that's important is because Lil Durk, there's very little connection from Lil Durk to this murder. They don't got Lil Durk instruct nobody to do this. Lil Durk don't got any transactions, like monetarily, that's linked to this at all. All they have is Lil Durk telling somebody, hey, don't book any flights under my name, and they got some snitches claiming that Lil Durk paid them. But without the gang connection to this, you can't really paint this as, hey, everybody who did this was on the OTF label. Lil Durk is, the president, the owner, the leader of OTF, so hence Lil Durk is culpable, right? Because you can't bring up the gang aspect of this.
All right, I'm here outside the federal courthouse. We just had day one of the Lil Durk trial. It's no longer a hearing. It is now a full-blown trial. It is serious. It's the real deal, all right? There's a few interesting things going on outside the courthouse, inside these rooms. But what was really interesting that I heard today was really the judge giving specific instructions on the gang memberships and what's allowed to be said and what's not allowed to be said. Now, what was really fascinating in the kind of the final pre-trial hearing was that the judge has basically ruled, look, he is very adamant when he gave Durk the big W and severed the 2 different murder charges, the Vicar count, which is the Chicago murder, the Stephon Mack murder, that's allegedly a gang-related murder. A GD rival of Lil Durk's who is connected to the people that they say, killed Lil Durk's brother D-Fang. They're basically saying that, okay, that is a gang-related murder. That's separate, all right? We're going to try and put that on the calendar. But this murder, this Los Angeles murder, it wasn't a gang murder. They're saying the act itself wasn't an act of gang violence. What it was that they were basically, you know, trying to, you know, get revenge for what happened to King Von. Obviously, the judge made it very, very clear that what is going to be allowed to be discussed is King Von's gang membership, gang membership between the defendants and co-defendants and co-conspirators, that basically means that they are relevant to each other, like how they know each other from way back being in gangs, the reason and the motivation and the motive for allegedly wanting to King Von because he was such a prominent member of the Black Disciples. But what they're not allowed to do and what they're not allowed to look into and talk about is, you know, the gang reasons. They're not allowed to say that it was a gang-related murder. And what I noticed, and bear in mind, I've looked into this story extensively, I've looked very, very deep into Quando Rondo's gang affiliations, his membership of the Rollin' 60 Crips, but in Savannah, Georgia, you know, these gangs kind of have a lot of different, you know, I don't know the right word, but sets kind of all around the country. And, you know, Quando Rondo's gang membership has never been brought up, you know, and they're not going to be allowed to basically talk about gang membership in context of the murder of Savia Robinson, aka Lil Pab. But what is interesting is the judge said, look, it's up to the jury. If the jury decide based on the testimony that they think Durk and them were all in a gang and were doing gang stuff, that's fine. But that might not necessarily mean that they believe that he did the murder, and vice versa. They can say, he said that, look, the jury might be completely unconvinced that Durk was ever in any kind of gang, but if they're convinced that he orchestrated the murder for hire with his co-conspirators, then they can still find him guilty even if they don't believe that there's any sort of gang membership. So it was a really interesting kind of back and forth. Some of the, you know, stuff that's going to be allowed, I think, is going to make a big difference. But I think that is a big key issue that the judge has ruled on, the gang membership. Whether
I got no problem with bringing up, yo, King Von was this, these people are this, you know, this is how they're connected to King Von. This is what motivation they would have. However, that's entirely different than saying, yo, Lil Durk is a gang leader. Lil Durk is the gang leader of OTF. These people is from OTF. They committed this murder. So hence, Lil Durk is tied into this that way. No, if you can't tie him in that way, it's almost impossible to tie Lil Durk into this murder. Now, everybody else, right, you know, like OTF, DD, and the rest of them, I mean, good luck. Y'all doing life. There's no chance y'all beat this at all. Under no circumstances, y'all doing life behind this. Now, OTF Vonnie, he took a plea deal. I think the plea deal is contingent on what he does when trial starts, but Vonnie might do about 20 to 30 while other people do life. But Lil Durk, I think, is going to beat this 100%. Well, not 100%, because I'm not going to say that, bro. But I think Lil Durk is going to beat this. You know, there's not enough here to give Lil Durk life in prison. There's just not enough here. I don't see it. You know, this would be a miscarriage of justice if Lil Durk gets found guilty. A miscarriage of justice. The only thing that Lil Durk did, or the mistake that he made, was, yo, Lil Durk kept a lot of snakes around him. OTF Jam is testifying. He gave Jam $50,000 when Jam came home. Vonnie, he took Vonnie to the ice box, put ice on his neck. He ain't never experienced no treatment like that before, man. Bro, Lil Durk did something for Vonnie that Vonnie's own father ain't never did for him, man. And now Vonnie taking a stand to rat on Lil Durk. This comes with the streets. But I don't think they can snitch good enough to get Lil Durk guilty on murder charges in this case. The next case after this, just pack it up, bro. Yeah, bro, Lil Durk best chances is, bro, after this murder case, just take the plea deal, go sit down for 10 or 15, man. Cause you go to trial for that, Rico, good luck, man. But y'all let me know in the comment section, what do you guys think of this, man? If you're still watching this video and you want to watch another good video, then click on this video right here somewhere on my screen, somewhere here, or here, or here, somewhere on my screen to find out, yo, you won't believe what just came out of Officer Tatum's mouth in regards to Nolan Wells and his family. I'm going to see you guys in this Nolan Wells video. I'm out of here, folks. Peace.